If you've been using Squarespace for a while, you're probably familiar with the concept of a color theme. Inside a page section, when you change the color theme, the colors of that content will update to match what you've selected in your site styles menu. Things like the background color and the default text color, all kinds of cool stuff. Well, it turns out we can actually use that color theme concept and apply it to our custom code. And that's exactly what you're going to learn how to do in this video. I'm Becca from Inside the Square, and I'm pleased as punch to introduce to you Will Myers. Will is a Squarespace code expert and one of my favorite people in our Squarespace community, and he's taking over my channel this week to share a really awesome code trick for how you can create adaptive colors for your own custom code. Without further ado, here's Will.
If you're writing your colors in CSS like this, there might be a better way to do it, and let me show you what I mean. So I've customized a summary component right here. We got some nice rounded edges, and we have our text on top of the image. And to make sure the actual text contrasts with the image, I've added an overlay that is the exact same color as our H2 text, and I've made sure the text of our item is the same as our background of that section. So this looks really good right now. But the problem is I've used this color format. This is a static color format. It's not going to adapt to my page section. So if I go in and edit my section, or my client most likely goes in and edits the color right here, the color still isn't going to adapt, and it's just not going to be as crisp. It's not going to be as nice, especially if we go to like a totally different color theme, then everything's kind of getting out of whack. So what I want to show you is a different way to do it. So I've done that different way in this section down here, and the colors of this summary block will adapt to whatever color theme that I choose. And it's going to look really nice. We're always going to have the overlay of our summary is going to be that of our H2 text, and the text of our summary block is always going to be that of our background. No matter which theme I choose, it's always going to match. So our colors are now adaptable. I want to show you how to do that. Okay, so first we need to understand how colors work in Squarespace, or rather how Squarespace works with colors. If we go to our site styles area, to our colors, we'll see we have 5 colors. This is sort of the base of all colors within our website. We can choose these 5 in our palette. And then Squarespace creates 10 section color themes from those 5 colors. And these are the color themes that we use to switch between our sections. And then, even within each color theme, we have about 300 different items that we can tweak and change in here. So we have our 5 color palette, then we have our 10 section color themes, and then within each theme, we have about 300 items that we can tweak within it. This is a lot to manage. So what Squarespace does is they use something called CSS variables. They're actually called custom properties, but we'll just call them CSS variables because that's easier to understand. And these are just references to the specific colors you or your client has chosen in this initial color theme. And using our CSS, we can tap into these variables. So when we write CSS, it'll adapt to whatever colors our client has chosen, or you, or if you just want to change them down the line. And these color variables have a silly little syntax to them. I'll show you that in a second. But the naming of them goes like this. This first one is white. This second one is light accent. This third one is just accent. Then we have dark accent, and then black. And so using those 5, we're going to write these variables. Now I'm going to go back over to my custom CSS area. And let's go here. This is the CSS that's controlling our text color right here. So remember that first color, the white one, was the lightest. It was about like this. So if I change this color to this silly little syntax, tilde, single quote, in between those, we're going to say HSLA, 2 parentheses, var, 2 parentheses, dash, dash. This is where it comes in, white, dash, HSL, comma 1. And now we have that color. I told you it was going to be a little silly. So this was our first color, but the other one was light accent, and that's going to be our second color. You can see it's a little faint there, hard to read. Then the third one was accent right there. So that's just that light blue. Then we had dark accent with our capital A on the accent for light and dark. And then the last one we had was black. And so these are the 5 different ways we can use this to tap into the variables within our colors area. But here's the thing. We're still going to run into that same issue because these are actually static values. These aren't going to change between color themes. These are just going to reference the 5 colors in our colors area right here. What we really want to do to make this adaptable is for the colors we choose in our CSS to reference the different components within each section theme. So to do that, we'll go back to our CSS and we'll change this color variable right here. Instead of using this, we're going to use var parentheses dash dash site background color. Now this is going to match our text color right there with the background color of our section right there. And then we're going to do a similar thing with our gradient. So our gradient over top of our image right there. Right now, it's just sort of that light color, but what we're going to do is use var dash dash heading extra large color. And this is going to map to our H2. So our text is going to be our site background and our overlay color is going to match with our H2. Now, let's see how this changes the colors as we switch between color themes. So let's go to our dark red. So the colors change, the colors match to whatever color theme we have chosen. So this is much better. And the obvious question now is, well, how do you know what colors to use? How did I know to use site background color? What about heading extra large color? How do you know what colors to use? And also, what does this var mean? Let's start with which colors to use. So these are all in the Web Inspector. You can find all of these and what they map to in the Web Inspector, but the Web Inspector is a little daunting. So if you are part of my membership, if you want to join my membership, I have a whole database of all of these, and the colors specific for your website will be in a Chrome extension. So if you turn on the Chrome extension, you see colors and fonts, and you see all of the colors related to your website. So here's the 5 primary colors. You can copy them from Hex or HSL. And then we have color scales if you want to grab those, again, corresponding to whatever your site palette is. But if you scroll down, you'll see here are our 5 colors again, but these are our variables, our color variables. And you see right here, as you hover over what you'd be copying, these are that silly little syntax we talked about earlier. And then, of course, down below, here are 5 of the primary color variables that I use when I'm using them. That's our background color, our H2 color, our paragraph color, the primary button background color. But if you want to see all of them, you can click this, and I got a whole database right here that shows you every single one, and you can search through them if you want. So you can just click on heading extra large color, and that'll copy it and you can paste it in. So you can switch these to whatever you want. Maybe instead of the heading extra large or H2, we want it to map with our paragraph color. So we could do that. So it's really easy to use this. Now, if you don't want to join my membership, totally get it. That's totally fine. I have a page dedicated, totally free, right here on my toolkit. Here is a full list of all of the color variables that you can, again, filter and search through if you want to find any. So a link to this will be down below. Okay, so that's where you can find them, but let's try to understand a little bit more about these vars. So the var, these custom properties, they work like this. You can add them onto any element that you want on your website, and then you can reference them on any child element. So every single website has a body. There's a body around it right there. So we'll just say body, and we can put some any CSS properties we want on that body. So let's say border, 10 pixels, solid black. And that way we should see a black border around our entire website. So I can also add a custom property to this. So I can say dash dash brand red. And let's just say this is going to be some red color. We'll just say the most basic of red colors, FF0000. So there is our red color. Now, since I have now defined a custom property on the most parent element, so our body right here. Now I can use this between the parentheses of our var anywhere I want on my website. So I could come down here, and instead of using site background color, I could use var in parentheses whatever I have defined up there, dash dash brand red. And of course, brand red could be anything. You can make this whatever variable name you want. And now it's going to show as our text right there. So that is how these work. There's a little wrinkle though as well. On any other element, I could redefine it as well. So I could redefine in here dash dash brand red to be, let's say, blue. And now that blue is going to override the more parent element. So this is how Squarespace is doing it. On every page section, on every color theme of a page section, Squarespace is defining a bunch of these CSS properties. And then we're just using those CSS properties in here. We're just tapping into whatever the color theme, the CSS properties on that specific section. All right, hope this helps. Hope you learned a little something about how to use colors a little bit better in Squarespace. If you want to check out my free resources, go over to toolkit.will-myers.com and you can go over to the color variables, see the whole list of every color variable that you could tap into. And if you want to hit see documentation, you can get a little bit more of an overview about how these work. Would love to have you in my membership. If you want to join, you get access to a bunch of code snippets, the toolkit extension, which has a bunch of tools for pro Squarespace users. Otherwise, let me know if you have any questions or comments down below. Hope you enjoy.
Underneath this video, you'll find all of the links that Will mentioned, including a link to his YouTube channel. If you liked this tutorial, you should definitely check that out. I'm Becca from Inside the Square, and I hope you enjoyed this special guest video. If you have any questions about Squarespace, let me know in the comments below. Will and I will both be monitoring those comments so we can hop in there and help. Thanks again for watching, and most importantly, have fun with your Squarespace website. Bye for now.